Guys, welcome to Skrrt Garage. I'm excited to have you on the channel today. What I'm going to be doing is answering one of the questions I get in the comment section quite a bit. And it's ever since I made that video about the buyer's guide, I mentioned how sometimes the hood can go past the body panel and it can make the alignment of the body panel, the hood, and the front fender not look very good. I know that when I bought my car, I had to adjust this, and a few of the other owners out there have definitely had to do this as well. So today what I'm going to be doing is showing you exactly how to line it up, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a quick manner. That way you're not fumbling around for hours like I did the first time I tried this. Alright, so if you guys are new to the channel or like this video, please give it a big old thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell next to it. Okay guys, let's get started with this video. Guys, let's talk about this real quick. The reason why this happens is because the Jaguar F-Type has a clamshell hood, meaning that it opens in a reverse fashion. And it's a really sexy feature of the car, but what ends up happening is it creates a break in between the body panel and the front fender. And so you've got three different body panels all aligning together over the wheel arch, which sustains a lot of movement and whatnot as you're driving the car. So it's common to have this happen, and knowing how to fix it is definitely handy. Now, I will say this, there's a few different ways of doing this, of fixing it. There's also multiple different ways that it can be out of sync and out of line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump behind the camera and I'm going to show you things to look for, and then I'll show you how to fix them. One recommendation I will say before I show you anything else is, if you're out of sync, if it doesn't look correct, but it has in the past, I highly recommend that you pop your hood, you come back around and you shut the hood again, but you shut it the proper way with both hands on the hood like this as you close it so that both latches go down. I highly recommend that you do that before you go ahead and diagnose yourself as having a problem, because every now and again if you close it incorrectly, it will not line up well. So make sure that you've closed it correctly, then see if you actually have a problem. Alright, let's get started now. Before I pop the hood, what I'm going to do is show you some things to look for. That way we know exactly how we're doing. Now, first things first, we're going to come down and we're going to look at the full arc here. See and make sure that everything lines up. So you can take your finger, it's going to get dirty, but you take your finger, you run it across, and you feel for any large breaks. This really feels pretty good. It's definitely what I would consider within the noise. If you're looking at it, nothing too bad. You're gonna wanna look at this gap right here. You wanna make sure that it's at a constant amount. Then you come to this side and you put your finger down or something down right here, and you feel if it's at the same level. This feels at the same level to me. So then you come this way, and you start looking at this gap. So this gap, as it runs out, you can tell my car, it gets more narrow. There's a reason why, and I'm gonna show you how to fix that here in a minute. So that's definitely something you wanna check, okay? You come over here and you look down this fender line. That looks pretty flush to me. There's nothing out of the norm right there or anything that I would be worried about. Then you come to the top of the light, and then you do that same trick where you run your finger over it to see if there's anything that's up or down or not correct on it, and that feels pretty flush to me. Then you look at this line all the way across, and that looks pretty good to me, nothing too crazy there. And then you do the same thing on the other side. So I can look at this and see how this one, it's a lot more clean all the way through, whereas this one over here look to get a little bit more narrow as it comes out to the side. See that? So that's one of these things that I'm talking about. Even though my car looks great from over here, when you really get to diagnosing this, you can find some issues. For me, like I said, I've done this before, and that was acceptable to me. I could make it better, but that was still okay for me. On this side, same thing. Definitely within the noise on all the limits. So I'm not too worried about it. So what I'm gonna do now is pop the hood and show you guys what to look for. So we're gonna pop the hood over here. here, pull the release. And remember, the hood is one single piece of aluminum, so if you yank on it from just one side too many times, it can actually warp a little bit. So I'm gonna reach out in the middle and pull up. Get it started, come underneath, and finish it. All right, now the engine bay is open, and now we're gonna start to get to the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. All right guys, now that the hood is open, I'm gonna try to show you an easy way of diagnosing your issue and fixing your issue without getting too intense. And I know it's gonna be a little bit of a whirlwind right here, so try to stick with me, and I will try to show some pictures during all these things that I'm showing you. That way it's easy for you guys to get out there and to handle. We're gonna start in the back, so the back of the hood right here, okay? If you're having issues with it being too tall or too low right here, or against the body paneling right here, the two areas I want you to check is this right here, this little screw with the bump stop on top of it, and I also want you to check this up here. It's the latch portion of the hood. We're gonna start down here. So the reason why I want you to check this is just a simple screw. If I screw this in a little bit, the hood is allowed to close lower, meaning that if this panel gap was too high, if I screwed this down a few notches, the hood would be able to close to a lower position, and it would eliminate some of the panel gap here. Make sense? Okay. Same thing for up here, but this is kind of counterintuitive. This nut controls this latch, and it's kind of counterintuitive because the harder or the tighter you make this nut, if you turn to the right and you screw it into the hood, this actually becomes looser. And it sounds counterintuitive, but you want this to be a little bit loose because it closes, it latches the hood a lot easier. If you loosen this and it becomes really stiff, it's kind of hard to shut the hood on these cars. So there you go. That's kind of how you take care of this back portion, all right? And that also goes for lining up this section right here of the kind of missing part here of the hood. It also goes for this little area, all right? If we're gonna move forward and we're talking about the hood closing too much, being over closed, that has to do with this one right here. It's the same concept as in the back, another bump stop. If it closes too much, then you loosen this or you unscrew it so that the hood cannot close too far. Okay, you with me? Those two things, you know, the latch up here and these bump stops, that can get you about 80% of the way of closing or fixing this problem right here. There is some trial and error. You're gonna have to unscrew it, screw it, close the hood, open the hood, kind of figure out what works, but that's gonna get rid of a lot of the problems you're having if it's over closed or over opened and you have a gap. All right, now we're gonna talk a little bit more about the front fender, because normally what we see with the front fender is kind of like my car. This line right here comes in close contact or gets really close with the front hood. Another thing that we see is that this can sometimes become extended too far laterally, and it won't line up perfectly. So there's two ways of fixing that. We're gonna start with being too far out like this, too far lateral. You have two 10mm screws right here. The nice thing is Jag actually figured out a way to make these adjustable in a 360-degree fashion. So if you loosen these, you can actually pull the front bumper cover out, you can push it down, you can push it forward, you can push it in. There's a lot of adjustability here when you unscrew these, because the hole that's there, it's about that big, and so it gives you a good amount of adjustability to make sure that everything's lined up good. What I would recommend, and I wish I knew this earlier, is I would recommend that you start with this outside one. Because these are independent of each other, you can actually tighten this one down such that the fitment at this portion of the headlight and the hood up here is good, and you can leave this one loose. That way you can realign it, you can pick it up a little bit, you can push it down a little bit. You can make sure that the alignment of both of these is on par to follow this line here and to keep everything in sync with the body. So that's definitely what I would recommend for those two. If you're running into an issue with the headlight being too tall, where the headlight is taller than the hood line here, or it's too sunk in, then there's a way to fix that as well. There's two 10mm bolts. One's right here, and one is right here. If this portion, let me show you. See, if I run my finger, how it's a seamless transition right here? That's because the alignment and the amount of pressure that this bolt has is perfectly in line with this front bumper cover. Back here, as I run my fingers across the headlight and theoretically onto the hood, it's also exactly lined up because this nut is torqued down to the exact amount that makes it flush. All right, so that's how you control and make sure that everything's at the right height up and down. All right, guys, that is pretty much everything. There's one more thing I do need to show you, and it's underneath the car. I do have to mention that there's a lot of other adjustability on the car to fix these things. Like, all of these can be changed if you want to better align the hood. There's also so much more going on with these all across the body, everything in between. There's a lot of adjustability, but I would highly recommend you just stick to what I just showed you. That's gonna make your life a lot easier. So let's get under the body and I'm gonna show you how to fix that, okay? All right, guys, what I've done is use the double jack technique to get the car off the ground, and I'm gonna jump underneath it because there's one 10mm bolt that if you loosen it, you pull the bumper underneath forward a little bit and then you tighten it, it'll actually give me that space that I need right here. Okay, so let me show you that right now. Here is the wheel. This is the splash shield underneath, and it's got some Phillips right there, and it also has a 10mm. What I'm gonna do is loosen both of those, and I'm gonna loosen them, pull this whole piece towards the front of the vehicle, and then tighten it again. And what that should do is theoretically open up some space and clear out this little alignment issue I'm having. So let's do that right now. Guys, that's basically how you do it. You know, it's kind of interesting. Jaguar will stop aligning your hood for you after about 1 year of ownership. Unless you know you're really close with your service advisor, they might be able to help align that for you. But as you've seen in this video, it's kind of a tedious process, so I understand why they don't want to spend an hour trying to line it up for every single customer, but at least you guys know how to do it now. I also have a service tech bulletin from Jaguar that explains exactly how to do this with pictures, and I'm going to try to leave a downloadable link in the comment section below. But if I can't, if for some reason I can't, my email for Skrrt Garage is on my homepage here on YouTube. Go ahead, look that up, give me an email, and I'll try to send it to you or forward it to you via email. If that doesn't work, then we'll figure something out. Yeah, and my email is also there if you guys are local and would like to get together, have a car meet or some drag races, let me know. It's at skrrtgarage@gmail.com. So if you have found this video helpful at all, please remember to give this a big old thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel for more DIYs of the F-Type. I have a full playlist of them now, and as I continue to own the car, I will make more. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Like always, like and subscribe, and we will see you next video. Peace.